Number 1, the square root of 64 is 8. Number 2, the square root of negative 64 is 8i. Square root of 48 is 4 square root of 3. Of course, if you need me to go over any of these, let me know as we go along. Number 4 is 5i square root of 3. Number 5 is 11i. Number 6 is 12 square root of 3. Number 7, 9i square root of 7. 8 is 11 square root of 11. And number 9 is 8i square root of 13. Okay? So just factor them, right? Okay. All right, so we're moving on to our quadratic section. So we're going to talk about quadratic equations. Today we're just solving by taking square roots. That's why we reviewed square roots. And with quadratics, we can have negative square roots. Notice we didn't do any cube roots or anything. It's just square roots because we're doing quadratics, and quadratics are only squares. So we're only going to be dealing with square roots for this next little bit. That's it. So how do I solve? How do I get rid of it as x squared? Well, I do the square root of it, right? And if I square root one side, I have to square root the other. So x is going to equal what? What is the square root of 49? And? Or, I guess I should say. Is that the only answer I can have is 7? I guess is my question. What's my other answer? There is another answer, right? Is there another number when I multiply it together, because it's x squared, right? Is there another number that's the same when I multiply it together, I get 49? I already got 7. Is there another one? Yeah, negative 7. Right? Because negative 7 times negative 7 also gives me 49. So I always get 2 answers, the positive and the negative. Yeah. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. Awesome. So that's all we're going to do. Pretty easy. So number 2, square root, right? And square root. And then x is going to equal, and we can just write it this way, plus or minus, right? So I don't have to write it twice. I can just write the plus or minus right on top of each other. And then I'm going to figure out what 92 is. Let's see, what goes into 92? Square root 92. I can just do it this way, though. 92 divided by 4 is 23. So 92 is 4 times 23. So that would be 2 square root of 23. Okay, beautiful. And then the last one, x squared, square root it. And then x is going to equal, the square root of negative 4 is plus or minus 2i. Is there any questions on those 3 whole problems? Not too bad. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and do A, B, and C. Give you a few minutes. All right, so A, right, square root it, and I get x equals plus or minus 10. Look at that, do roll, and people show up. For B, square root, I get t is going to equal plus or minus 12. That's great. And then C, square root both sides, and x is going to equal plus or minus 5i root 3. 25 times 3. Yeah. Okay. 5i root 3. Questions? Everyone okay? Anyone online have a question? Okay, so now we're going to go to one more step. Now we're just going to add a step right to our square roots. We're basically doing the same thing. Got to get the x squared by itself first before I can do the square root. So on problem number 1, I'm going to add 2. And then I get x squared equals 9. And now I'm doing the exact same thing that I just got done doing. So square root both sides. And I get x equals plus or minus 3. Number 2, I would subtract 7 first. And I get x squared equals 2 square root. And x is equal plus or minus the square root of 2. And then on number 3, we divide by 81. And I get x squared equals 25 over 81. Square root both of them. And x is going to equal plus or minus 5/9. 5/9, yeah, that's right, 5/9. Questions? You okay? Awesome. So let's go and do A, B, and C, the top of the next page for you guys. So I fix, maybe we're going. Okay, here we go. Add 8 to both sides. And I'm going to get c squared equals 8 square root. And I'm going to get c is going to equal plus or minus, let's see, that's 4 times 2. So 2 root 2. And then b, we're going to divide by 5. And y squared equals 6 square root. So y is going to equal plus or minus the square root of 6. C is almost the exact same thing. Divide by 4. Y squared equals 3 square root. Y is going to equal plus or minus the square root of 3. Any questions? Not too bad so far? Awesome. Okay, so the next little bit, we're just adding one more step, right? So we're still doing exactly the same thing. Instead of a 1-step equation, now we have a 2-step equation. So I'm going to subtract 2, right? So I get 100 x squared equals negative 64. Divide by 100. And then I get x squared equals negative 64 over 100. Square root it. So I'm going to get x is going to equal plus or minus 8i over 10. Okay, questions on that? Are we okay? And then if we go to number 2, let's see. So I'm going to add 5 and get 6t squared equals 5. Divide by 6. T squared equals 5/6. Square root. T is going to equal plus or minus the square root of 5/6. Great. Or you can rationalize the denominator. It didn't ask us to, right? But sometimes it will. So that would, I'm going to put or here. Or plus or minus the square root of 30 over 6. Either one is correct. Okay, I don't care how you write it. Unless it asks to rationalize the denominator, this is fine for me. Okay, any questions? All right, let's go ahead and have you, I don't know how many there are to do. Oh, there's 4. Okay, do you need to have those examples shown? Are we okay? All right. We're going to go ahead and go on. So add 49, and I get 9x squared equals 49. Divide by 9, And x squared is going to equal 49 divided by 9. So square root it to get x instead of x squared. So x is going to be plus or minus 7/3. Yeah, that's right, 7/3. Questions? Awesome. Okay, B, add 25 to both sides. And I'm going to get 36a squared equals 25 divided by 36. And a squared is going to be 25 divided by 36, but I want a, so I'm going to square root it. So I get a is going to equal plus or minus 5/6. We okay so far, everybody? Awesome sauce. All right, number C. Add 5. And I'm going to get 7x squared equals 5. Divide by 7. X squared equals 5/7. Square root. And x is going to equal the plus or minus the square root of 5/7. Now I'm going to do the rationalize the denominator because I don't remember in Delta Math if they have questions like this and if they require you to rationalize the denominator or not, right? So I would multiply by the square root of 7 on the top and the bottom, right? So that would give me, or my answer would be plus or minus the square root of 35 over 7. So I don't remember. Okay, so either one in Delta Math, you just have to, if they have an answer like that, I would just go to show an example and see how they want the answer, okay? If it doesn't say. Or since you get 2 chances to do the answer right, put it in first one way, and if they don't want it that way, do it the other way. Whichever way you want to do it. D, I'm going to subtract 16. And I get 25y squared equals negative 16. Divide by 25. Y squared is going to be negative 16 over 25. Square root. So y is going to be, let's see, that's 4i, plus or minus, sorry, 4i divided by 5. You can also write this as this, you guys, plus or minus 4/5 I. Doesn't matter, okay, where you put the I at. It does need to be in the top. That's not like 4 over 5i. That's not what that is. The I is not in the denominator. Okay, any questions? Any questions at home? Okay. I know that I went too fast for you guys to type it in, but if you have a question, please type it in and I'll go back and answer it. So now for the last type of the square root, and this is this, okay? If my square root, if I have to take the square root first before I add or subtract, so it's just a little different form. This one says I have to do my square root first before, instead of last. So I'm going to go ahead and square root. I'm going to get rid of the square first. And let's see. So the x plus 3 squared, the square root of x plus 3 squared is just x plus 3 because there's 2 of them, equals plus or minus, that's 40. 40 is 4 times 10. So that's 4 times 10. So that should be 2 square root of 10. Yeah, that's right. And then to get x by itself, I'm going to subtract 3. So x is going to equal negative 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 10. And remember, I can't add those square roots together because the 3 doesn't have the square root of 10. So I just leave it like that. Any questions? Okay. And then number 2, the first thing before I can take a square root, I've got to get rid of that -5, right? So I'm going to divide by -5 on both sides, and then I get x minus 4 squared equals -25. And now I can get rid of the square by square rooting it, and that gives me x minus 4 equals plus or minus 5i. Add 4 to both sides. And since they're not like terms, I have 4 plus or minus 5i this time. So any questions on that one? Okay, so that means we have, I think there's 4 problems. Is there 4? Yes, there's 4 problems for you guys to do. So I'm going to make these a little bigger so the kids at home can see them. So last section. So I'm going to square root this. And I get, what do I get? Y minus 4 is going to equal plus or minus, and 18 is 9 times 2. So that should be 3 square root of 2. Add 4 to both sides, and I should get y is going to be 4 plus or minus 3 root 2. Yeah. Next is almost the same thing. Beautiful. So I'm going to take a square root here, and I'm going to get x minus 1 is going to be plus or minus 7i. Add 1, and x is going to equal 1 plus or minus 7i. Get them all right so far? Nice. Okay, C. The first thing I'm going to do is divide by -4. And then I get x minus 3 squared equals -16. Square root. And then I get x minus 3 equals plus or minus 4i. Add 3 to both sides. And x is going to equal 3 plus or minus 4i. And then the last one, let me see if I can still keep that one up there. Have room on the iPad. There we go. Divide by 3. And I get x plus 5 squared equals 25. And I square root it. And I get x plus 5 equals plus or minus 5. So subtract 5. So x is going to equal -5 plus or minus 5, which equals 0 or -10. Hope you broke it down that far. Right? If I can combine like terms together, I have to, and that's why -5 plus 5 is 0, and -5 minus 5 is -10. Okay? Okay. So that, I think, is the last problems. Yep.